Okay guys, thought I'd make a video here on how to repair your return line inside the fuel tank. I see a lot of questions coming through on people having issues with the car surging and popping and carrying on when steering from left to right with a quarter of a tank or so left. So I've got a technique for fixing that, and I'll show you how I do it, and hopefully this fixes some of your issues. Okay guys, so I'm under the car now, about to remove the fuel sender unit from the fuel tank. I'm going to do this while the tank's in the car, because I've got the rear end of the car out being overhauled at the moment. But you may find that this job is easier if you take the fuel tank out of the car. If your diff and everything's in the way, you may not be able to remove it so easily. So this job may require the tank to be removed from the vehicle. But luckily I don't have to worry about that today. So unplug all your wiring and whatnot and just tuck them out the way, and then we'll just take these fuel lines off. I've already prepared all this earlier just for the sake of the video. So and then just undo these 5 screws. So you want to make sure your fuel tank is all you've siphoned all the fuel out of it as best you can, and otherwise you're going to end up with fuel everywhere. You're probably going to end up with fuel everywhere anyway. And then if you turn this clockwise, it should just come out. And just be careful of your float level in here. So you got to reach in here and just turn your float around so that it's horizontal, just to assist with it coming out. Just be gentle with it, try not to bend it or damage it. And then once you get that, you just want to line up this bottom return line here with the notch in the bottom of the fuel tank. Just bring it out through there. That should make the job easier getting this fuel pump out. Okay, so once that's out, on here, this is the issue, guys. This is your fuel return line, and that's supposed to have a hose on it that connects to a barb fitting inside the tank that goes into your swirl pot. And this hose over time just breaks down and deteriorates, and if you have a look inside your tank, you'll probably find it floating around in there. I'm not going to get too worried about pulling it all out. It's been sitting in there for 20 years. I don't think it's going to make a difference right now. So, and you've got a filter here and you've got another filter up there. So yeah, don't get too concerned about it. So down inside the tank here, you've got a barb. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this too well on camera. I don't think this is going to work. Okay guys, so see that little white fitting on the left hand side of that? That's your swirl pot, the black pot there, and then you've got this little white fitting on the left hand side with a barb fitting on it. That's where your hose needs to go. Now you can pull that out. I've managed to in the past. You just get a wire, piece of stiff wire. I used a bit of welding, like a welding electrode, and just knocked all the flux off it and bent it into a hook. And you can sometimes pull them out, and once out of the black fitting, and then you can fit your new piece of hose to it and put a hose clamp on it, and then you just sort of use it, just clips back into place. You just use the new piece of hose that you've attached to it to sort of feed it in there and just clip it back into place. But I've tried to pull this one out and used a fair bit of force, and I can't get it out, and I don't want to break it, so I'm just going to leave it in there and feed the new piece of hose onto it as best I can and just push it on, and I won't be able to get a hose clamp onto it, but hopefully it won't blow off inside the tank. There you go. Okay, so now you can see I've just put the new piece of hose onto that barb fitting, and you may just have to give it a bit of a twist and a turn just to push it on and get it seated all the way home onto that barb. From there, I'll cut this hose to length, and then put the new put the fuel pump back in, and feed it all in together with the new piece of hose on that return line off the fuel pump fitting. Okay guys, so we're just going to cut this hose to length. So you just want to leave a bit hanging out so you've got something to work with. You don't want it too long, but you don't want to cut it down inside the tank either, because you won't be able to feed it onto the barb of the fuel return line as you're feeding it all together. So, oh yeah, and when you get a piece of this hose, make sure it's fuel hose. Just get it from Repco or your local auto shop, and make sure it's fuel resistant to be submersed in fuel. So we'll feed this back in. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but we'll see how we go. Just about need another set of hands for this. There we go. Okay, so if we turn it clockwise until the pump is basically in the little pump inside there is in a horizontal position, and then we'll feed this on. Okay, so I've got this new fuel line on here. I'm not going to worry about putting a hose clamp on it. It seems to be on there pretty tight, and once you push all this in together, the hose is going to be basically getting squashed onto at each end onto both the barbs. So I'm pretty confident that there's going to be no hose clamps required. So what we do now is we want to turn, it's a little bit fiddly, but we want to turn it so these hoses are sort of heading towards 12 o'clock, and then once you get it in, you need to rotate it around so that fuel pump goes over the top and down into the swell pot inside the tank. Once you've got that in position, it's just a matter of putting all your bolts back in and putting all your wires back on it and hooking it all up. So, and that's about it, job done. So I'll just get this done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Chicks. Alright, Sleepy. Pizza. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Chicks. Alright, Sleepy. Pizza. Oh yeah. How can I make them chicks? The ones that are fully sick.
The ones that wiggle and jiggle and giggle, I want them on my... All the times we had in the backseat of my car, they got me hot and hit the spot. You were my...
And there you have it, job done, guys. Righto guys, well that's my demonstration on how to fix your fuel return line in the VN through to VS, Statesmans, Caprices, Commodores, you name it. It sort of applies to most of them. I know some of them have slightly different fuel systems with a lift pump and a secondary pump on the early VNs, but anyway, I think that's all much the same. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you out. Alright, cheers guys.